My name is Pat Courtney Gold. My Indian name is Tsabinba. I am a member of the Wasco Nation, which is a part of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, Oregon, and that's in Central Oregon. Historically, the Wasco people lived along the Columbia River for generations and generations. And during the treaty time in the 1850s, we were forced to move onto the reservation in Central Oregon. So that's where I was born and raised. And when I grew up, I didn't know anyone who wove the traditional geometric Wasco Sally bags. And 12 years ago, my sister and I worked with Mary Schlick, a non-Indian, to relearn and rediscover the Wasco weaving. And now that I am doing this weaving, I really appreciate the heritage that I represent. This basketry is really a good representation of our culture. The full turn twine technique of making these baskets is unique to the Wasco people, and these images are found only in the Columbia River area. The traditional way of starting a basket, the design, is to put in an earth line, which is at the base, and to put in a skyline, which is at the top, and the design goes in between. On this basket, I wanted to honor the sturgeon. So I've started with a sturgeon image at the base, and in between, this spiral design represents the sturgeon row. It's a modified version of the traditional sturgeon row design. Sturgeon are important to the Wasco people because they represent strength and long life. And I really am in awe of the sturgeon who live in the Columbia River, because the Columbia River is quite a polluted river. Along both shores of the Columbia River in Washington and Oregon, there are huge farms. And these farms do a lot of herbicide and pesticide spraying, and they use a lot of commercial fertilizer, and all this runs into the Columbia River. And even further upstream, we have Hanford. And Hanford is now a nuclear dump, and they have a huge chemical waste. I like to put in sturgeon that I call Hanford sturgeon. So the base one, the bottom one in this design, has this synthetic iridescent fiber that I wove in. And I left the stray fibers hanging out. And this is symbolic of the radioactive glow when things are really highly irradiated. My recent baskets have a red, white, and blue base. And I started putting in red, white, and blue to honor the young men and women who are serving over in Iraq and Afghanistan in the President's War. What makes Wasco baskets unique is most people know how to twine, but when I get up into the design elements, what I'm doing is weaving with two different colored warps. So I do the full turn, which is a double turn, to control whether I want a light background or whether I want the dark for the design. This is one of my contemporary baskets, and again, I finished this basket this year. What I wanted to do was a contrast. I wanted this basket to really show the continuity of my culture. So again, I start this basket with the earth line and the sky line. In this case, the earth line is the Cascade Mountains, and I grew up near the Cascade Mountains. And the top is the stars. I put on a traditional ancestral design. So here we have a male and a female. And the man is wearing a traditional Wasco costume. We always wore a diagonal image across the chest. And all of our images are geometric, and that's just characteristic of twining. The female is pregnant, she's got a baby. And as you can see, the baby's just anxious to come out and join us. This baby actually represents the future generations. I wanted to make a comment about the change in our culture. Historically, along the Columbia River, we had condors. And the condors became extinct about the early 1900s, primarily because when Euro-Americans were moving in, they used the condors as targets, and gradually they shot all the condors. So what we see now when we travel in the Columbia Gorge are airplanes. So I have the contemporary and the traditional. Then I wanted to do a contrast with the traditional figures. So I created what I call the yuppie couple. And the male figure here is a prosperous urban Indian, probably got his degree from Yale, and he's now a businessman, raking in lots of money on the global corporate experience. And then his companion is also a successful professional woman. Here she's wearing a real sexy, tight-fitting turquoise dress, and she's got matching turquoise shoes, and then she has a necklace with a little heart design on it. And she's also wearing lipstick, and she's got a modern hairdo. That's the story of my yuppie basket. I've been weaving for a number of years, and I like to play around with different fibers, and I like to create different designs, and I also enjoy using a lot of color. I saw a beautiful image of horses in the Dordogne caves in France, and I liked the geometric of the horses. They were stylized, so I took that image and I modified it the way I wanted to see it. And I enjoy working with color. So I used dyed commercial wax linen, and I did each of these horses. I wanted to put a symbol of the mountains because the caves that the original Dordogne caves are located in France are in a mountain range. And each of these horses, I wanted color. So I started putting color in, and I realized the colors I chose were sort of Southwest colors. So I thought that would look nice on an image of the U.S. Southwestern clay pots that they used to make. So then I thought, well, I'll make this in a slightly clay jar shape. If you just look at the basket, if you twirl it around and around, it looks like you have a whole herd of horses that are galloping. And that was the story behind this basket, that it's adaptation, very similar to our petroglyph designs, but these petroglyphs are located across the ocean. And I think that's what connects our cultures, the petroglyph images. And instead of finishing the top, my sister suggested that I just leave it like this so it'll look like a horse's mane, and then it flares out when the horse is running, which goes with the image of the horses who are moving quite fast. And then I wanted just to put some color, some more color, so I added the beads to it. So that's the story of this little basket.